Hi BookTube, this is Juan from Just One Reader. I am here with another reading update video. In this case, it's a Saturday Reads video. But before I get into the books that I am reading this week, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who watched and left a comment in my previous video from yesterday, a tribute to one of my favorite authors, Carlos Ruiz Zafón, Spanish writer and author of The Shadow of the Wind, who passed away yesterday. It was a video that meant a lot to me, and apparently it did for many people out there as well, and that makes me very, very happy to know that his legacy will be valued and loved and treasured by so many people around the world. Really, the feedback from you guys has been overwhelming. Thank you. Now, let's get started with the books. I only finished reading one book this week, and that was The Tiger in the Well. This is book 3 in the Sally Lockhart Mysteries series, which is a 4-book series of Victorian young adult thrillers written by Philip Pullman. Just like Carlos Ruiz Zafón, Philip Pullman has always been one of my favorite writers, like top 10 favorite authors. And it's funny because he's an author whose works I have read throughout my entire life, and whenever I reread some of his works that I read when I was a child, and I read them when I'm an adult now, it's very strange to have that experience, that sort of re-evaluation, reassessment of his works. Some of those rereads have been really successful, and some of them are a little questionable. They make me think about my own taste when I was younger, and this was certainly one of the latter. So this particular book in the series, which you can read any of the books in this series as a standalone, it doesn't really matter that much. This one in particular is book 3, The Tiger in the Well. Essentially, this story is about Sally Lockhart, who is like a badass Victorian feminist, and she's really a wonderful character, one of my favorite characters from my childhood, I guess. And in this particular episode, or chapter in the series, Sally finds her life sort of turned upside down. There's a man who is a complete stranger to her, and he is claiming that they are married and that she left him, and that she, who now has a daughter, essentially he's claiming that she is his daughter as well, and Sally has kidnapped her. So it's a mess, and essentially what Philip Pullman does, well, he does many things. He explores feminism, a lot of he examines patriarchy, especially in Victorian London, which was, you can just imagine how horrible it was. You examine a lot of these ideas with Philip Pullman hand in hand, and you get to follow this great character of Sally Lockhart. Now, without giving you a lot of the summary or what the plot of the book goes into, I will say that I liked this book well enough. I gave it 3 stars. Again, this was a reread for me. I read this book originally when I was much, 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 much younger, like 16, 17 years ago. And I remember that I absolutely adored this series, and I adored this book. And coming to it now, that I am quite older and hopefully a more mature reader, I can certainly see many flaws. I can see that Philip Pullman is doing some things really well, and some others he's not that great, at. Some of the things that he doesn't do very well here, he excels at in His Dark Materials. I think that overall His Dark Materials is a series that you can read and reread, and it doesn't matter how old you get, they still keep their value and their craft. Here, not so much. These are young adult thrillers, so there's that aspect of the book that felt sort of alien to me now. But at the same time, I was able to criticize this book because it does many things, many weird things. It's a weird book. Thematically, it's very adultish. It's about feminism and, you know, this patriarchal society of London, and what women are dealing with against men, what men are dealing with as well. It's also about like a Charles Dickens sort of backdrop, like a Dickensian sort of feel, grit to it. There's a lot of societal issues here, social criticisms as well. So the novel is a little bit all over the place. And that can be interesting, but it can also be a little bit confusing. Overall, I would say this book was a little confusing because there are so many characters, and some of them are not really that well painted. Some of them are just there for very selected scenes, and so it's just too much. It was confusing and it was a little bit too much, especially considering that this book was written for a younger audience. So I really can't really understand how this book came to be, because in some respects it's very adultish, in some respects it's not. So I don't know. Another thing that I would have changed if I had been the editor of this book is the length. This book is very long for what it is. It's 407 pages in this edition, which has a very awful cover, in my opinion. No, it's not a pretty cover. It's quite an ugly cover for me. It's pretty long, and it feels long, especially in the middle, because that's where you just feel like the book is losing steam and the plot is sort of losing urgency. You just follow Sally and many other characters going from one place to another, and it's like, please do something else. Please get somewhere. Now, the final 100 pages of the book I read in one sitting. They were very urgent, so I think that at least the book does that really well. However, I still felt that the climax of the book was a little disappointing. It actually felt anticlimactic to me. I was expecting a revengeful showdown, and it didn't quite go there. I was a little disappointed with the way that it ended. Especially between Sally and the antagonist himself, who is a very somber kind of character. So yeah, in the end, I gave this book 3 stars. Not my favorite book. I think the Sally Lockhart series, considering it now as an adult, as a reread, it's not the greatest thing to reread, because you start seeing all the flaws and all the things that just don't agree with you or with me as an older reader. So yeah, I don't know, it's weird. I recently reread his Dark Materials, and I loved it even more than before. But this one, not so much. However, I will continue with my reread project of this. I only have one book left, The Tin Princes, which I remember really loving as well, so we'll see. So that's the only book that I finished reading. Oh, and by the way, something that really bothered me is this cover. The scene that is portrayed in this cover doesn't even happen in the book. Why would they do that? I mean, something like that sort of happens. Something similar, slightly similar, happens in the climax of the book. But it's not like this at all. I mean, just a slight spoiler. This monkey has been dead for many chapters before this scene even takes place. So, what the fuck? So yeah. It was good. You know, Philip Pullman's writing is always great, and his character and the world building, so I love his writing. This was just not the best book. So the other book that I'm still reading currently is The Fermata by Nicholson Baker, which is about this weird man who has all these sexual desires and impulses, and he has the special ability to freeze time, stop time completely, and so he can take advantage of that superpower, and he can do all sorts of crazy things with his impulses. So it's a fascinating, naughty kind of novel, but I am enjoying it. It's a little slower and more meandering than I was hoping it would be, so it's taking longer to get through, but it's very interesting. And when I finish this, I would like to start Q's Legacy, which is nonfiction by Helene Hanff. She is the author of the very popular 84 Charing Cross Road and many other wonderful books. And this book, Q's Legacy, is the story of how 84 Charing Cross Road came to be. The subtitle is A Delightful Account of a Lifelong Love Affair with Books. And I also want to start reading a short story collection. I don't think I have read any short story collections this year. And I think this is the perfect time to read Joyce Carol Oates. So I'm going to start diving into this collection that I have, which is Lovely Dark Deep. And this book has incredible ratings, incredible praise, and so I really want to get a taste of what her writing is like, what her themes are about, and just overall what she's about. So that's what I will be reading, and if you have any comments, suggestions, or recommendations or opinions about any of these, I look forward to the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video.